My sister was driving the $80,000 Range Rover my grandfather had put in my name. I watched her lower her sunglasses and smirk at me from behind the wheel while my mother told my grandfather I was too selfish to accept his gift. That's when the war started. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. I work as a crisis manager for high-end events. When a venue floods or a caterer quits an hour before a gala, I don't panic. I assess the damage, identify the liability, and execute a solution. It's what I do. It's who I am. Standing in that driveway at my grandfather's Hamptons estate, watching my sister rev the engine of my car, I realized this wasn't a family reunion anymore. This was a crisis site. My grandfather, Henry, was on the porch. His hand gripped the railing so hard his knuckles had gone white. He was staring at me with this confused, almost hurt expression. "Clara, where is the car I sent you?" I opened my mouth to answer, but my mother beat me to it. Daphne stepped out from behind him, and she had that smile on her face. The one that looks warm to everyone else but feels like ice when it's directed at you. "Oh, Dad," she said, waving her hand dismissively. Her sister needed it more. You know how selfish Clara gets about sharing. The air left my lungs. I didn't scream. I didn't stomp my feet or burst into tears. That's what they wanted. If I made a scene, I'd just be the crazy, ungrateful daughter again. And they'd be the long-suffering family doing their best to manage me. Instead, I felt something cold wash over me. It was clarity. For 24 years, I'd convinced myself that my mother's behavior was just favoritism. Maybe incompetence. But standing there, looking at that car, I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a transaction. She had debited my life to credit Cassidy's. And she'd banked on my silence to balance the ledger. Daphne stepped into my path, dropping her voice to that dangerous whisper she used when she wanted to remind me of my place. "Don't you dare," she hissed. Her smile never wavered. The neighbors were watching from next door. "Don't you dare ruin your grandfather's 80th birthday with your jealousy. Just smile, walk inside, and we'll discuss this later." She expected me to shrink. That was the script we'd followed my entire life. She pushed, and I folded to keep the peace. But the peace was already dead. It died the second I saw my signature forged on a life I didn't get to live. I didn't even look at her. I walked right past her, stepping around her like she was a traffic cone, and went straight to my grandfather. He was still gripping that railing, looking from the shiny black Range Rover to my worn-out shoes. I could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. He wasn't just a grandfather in that moment. He was Henry. The man who'd built a construction empire by smelling bad deals before the ink was dry. "Grandfather," I said, keeping my voice level and loud enough for Cassidy to hear over the engine. "I need you to answer one question. Did you sign the title of that car over to me or to Cassidy?" "To you," he said. His voice was gravelly and low. "I sent the paperwork 3 months ago. Your mother sent it back with your signature." The air left the driveway. Cassidy turned off the engine. The sudden silence was violent. "I have never seen that paperwork," I said. "I have never seen that car. And I certainly never signed anything giving it away." Daphne let out this nervous, high-pitched laugh. "Dad, she's confused. She's tired from the trip. You know how she gets." Henry didn't look at Daphne. He kept his eyes locked on mine. He was looking for the lie. He was looking for the ungrateful brat Daphne had spent 2 decades painting me as. But all he saw was a woman who was done being collateral damage in her mother's con. "Are you telling me," Henry said, his voice dropping to this terrifying whisper, "that you did not authorize this?" "I am telling you that is stolen property," I said. Henry's face changed. The confusion vanished. The warmth vanished. In its place was the cold, hard mask of a man who had destroyed competitors for less. He didn't yell. He simply reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number. He didn't look at his daughter. He didn't look at his granddaughter in the driver's seat. He looked at the car like it was evidence in a murder trial. "Security," he said into the phone. "Close the main gate. No one leaves. People usually tell you to let it go. They say it's just money. Or she's your mother, she did her best. But those people haven't seen the ledger I carry in my head. They don't know the math of my existence. Standing there, watching Cassidy sashay ahead of me with the keys to my car still clutched in her hand, I wasn't thinking about the $80,000. I was thinking about the cost of being Daphne's daughter. It started when I was 16. That was the year Daphne sat me down at the kitchen table, pushed a calculator toward me, and told me that if I wanted to keep living in my childhood bedroom, I had to pay room and board. $300 a month. She called it a lesson in responsibility. I got a job scrubbing fryers at a diner after school. My hands smelled like old grease for 2 years. I paid every cent on time, in cash. 3 months after I started paying rent to my own mother, Cassidy turned 14. Daphne bought her a pony. Not a metaphorical pony. A living, breathing animal that cost more in stable fees per month than I earned in a year. That was the first entry in the ledger. Then came the college fund. My grandfather had set up accounts for both of us. When I turned 18, ready to put a deposit down on a state university, the account was empty. The market crashed, Daphne told me, wiping away a fake tear. It's all gone, honey. You'll have to take out loans. I believed her. I signed the papers for crippling student debt that I'm still paying off today. 6 months later, I saw the photos on Facebook. Cassidy was in Milan. She was taking a gap year to pursue modeling. The modeling classes, the first-class flights, the apartment in the fashion district. It cost exactly the amount that had been in my college fund. Cassidy never booked a single job. She came home with a tan and a designer wardrobe. And I went back to my double shifts at the library. Entry number 2. The final straw was 2 years ago. I was between apartments, staying on Daphne's couch for 3 weeks. She told me money was tight. She told me the electricity was about to be cut off. So I bought the groceries. I paid the utility bills. I filled her gas tank. I drained my savings to keep her afloat because that's what you do for family. Then I found the receipt in the trash. It was for a vintage Chanel handbag. The price was $3,000. Almost to the penny what I'd given her for bills. She hadn't been broke. She'd been bored. And she'd used my fear for her safety to fund her shopping addiction. So no, I wasn't overreacting to a car. The SUV wasn't just a vehicle. It was the first time in 24 years that someone had tried to give me something without Daphne intercepting it to feed her golden child. She hadn't just stolen a car. She'd stolen the one thing that proved I was worthy of being given a gift. She looked at me and saw a resource to be harvested. A crop to be cut down so Cassidy could feast. We reached the edge of the patio as we walked from the driveway toward the sprawling back lawn. The party was already in full swing. I could feel the eyes of the staff on us. They sensed the tension. But my pulse was steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking into a family gathering feeling like a beggar hoping for a seat at the table. I was walking in like a creditor coming to collect a debt. The air smelled of expensive perfume and ocean salt. Crystal glasses clinked. Laughter floated over the manicured hedges. It was a perfect, beautiful scene, funded by a man who had no idea his daughter was a thief. I looked at Daphne's back as she rushed toward the bar, desperate to drown the tension in Chardonnay. She thought this was just another family squabble she could smooth over with a lie and a smile. She didn't realize that the ledger was full. And today, I was closing the account. The garden party was a masterclass in performative wealth. Waiters in white jackets circulated with trays of oysters and truffle arancini. A string quartet played near the infinity pool. The salty breeze off the Atlantic mixed with expensive cologne and perfume. It was the kind of setting designed to make you feel small if you didn't belong. And for years, I had let it work. I'd shrunk myself to fit into the corners of these events, hoping no one would notice my off-rack dress or my lack of a trust fund. But today, the opulence didn't intimidate me. It just looked expensive. And I knew exactly who was footing the bill. I hadn't taken 3 steps onto the lawn before my Aunt Margaret intercepted me. She was holding a champagne flute and wearing a look of pity that made my skin crawl. "Clara, honey," she sighed, placing a hand on my arm. "Your mother told us about the car. I know black isn't your favorite color, but refusing a gift from your grandfather. That's a bit ungrateful, don't you think?" I stared at her. The lie was so lazy. So insultingly simple. Daphne hadn't even bothered to come up with a good excuse. She just painted me as the brat, knowing everyone would buy it because it fit the narrative she'd been writing since I was 4. Is that what she said? I asked, my voice calm. She said you threw a fit, Margaret whispered, leaning in like we were sharing a secret. She said you were jealous of Cassidy's success and wanted cash instead. Honestly, dear, you should be happy your sister is doing so well. Before I could correct the record, Daphne materialized. She hooked her arm through Margaret's and steered her away, casting a sharp warning glare in my direction. Oh, Margaret, let's not bore Clara. She's in a mood. She circled back to me a moment later, dragging Cassidy with her. Cassidy was holding a glass of vintage Dom Perignon, creating a condensation ring on the silk of her dress. She looked at me over the rim of her glass, her eyes glassy with unearned triumph. Nice Uber, Cassidy giggled. Did you use a coupon? Enjoy the champagne, Cassidy, I said. It costs $300 a bottle. That's about 2 hours of the consulting fees you charged to my identity last year. Cassidy's smile faltered. But Daphne stepped between us. Her hand clamped onto my wrist. Her nails dug into my skin. It was a move she'd perfected, inflicting pain while maintaining a smile for the photographers. Listen to me, Daphne hissed, her voice low and venomous. You are going to fix your face. You are going to go over to your grandfather and tell him you made a mistake. You tell him you're confused, that you forgot about the paperwork. If you ruin this party, Clara, I swear to God, you will never see another dime from this family. I will cut you off so completely you won't even exist. She thought she was threatening me. She thought she was holding the keys to my survival. She didn't realize she was threatening a ghost. You can't cut off someone who's already severed the limb. I'm not going to ruin the party, Mom, I said, pulling my wrist free. I smoothed my sleeve, checking for marks. I'm just here to watch the show. Daphne narrowed her eyes. She sensed a shift she couldn't identify. She was used to me pleading, crying, or apologizing. My silence unnerved her. She grabbed Cassidy's arm and pulled her toward the VIP table, muttering about ungrateful children. I watched them go. They were laughing now, clinking glasses, posing for selfies with the stolen car in the background. They looked powerful. They looked untouchable. But I wasn't looking at their smiles. I was looking at Henry, who had just walked up to the microphone stand near the massive outdoor projection screen. He tapped the mic twice. The sound echoed across the lawn, silencing the string quartet. Daphne raised her glass to him, thinking he was about to make a toast to her parenting. She didn't know the projector wasn't loaded with family photos. The microphone feedback squealed, a sharp electric shriek that cut through the garden chatter like a knife. The string quartet stopped mid-measure. 200 heads turned toward the stage. My grandfather stood there, adjusting the lapels of his tuxedo. He looked out at the crowd with the serene, terrifying calm of a captain about to scuttle his own ship. Daphne was still holding her glass raised halfway to her mouth, her smile frozen in confusion. She expected a toast. She expected Henry to praise her hosting skills, to gush about family unity, to play the role of the benevolent patriarch she relied on to fund her lifestyle. I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the screen, Henry said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried to the back of the lawn. My daughter prepared a slideshow of family memories. However, I decided to make a few edits. He tapped his tablet. The massive outdoor projection screen, which was supposed to show baby photos and vacation highlights, flickered to life. The image that appeared wasn't a sepia-tone memory. It was a high-definition, time-stamped photograph taken with a telephoto lens. The silence on the lawn was absolute. Exhibit A, Henry said, his tone dry as dust. August 14th, 2 in the afternoon. This is the day Daphne claimed Clara rejected her birthday gift because it wasn't her style. As you can see, this is the valet stand at a nightclub in the meatpacking district. And that is Cassidy handing the keys of that rejected gift to a valet. On the screen, Cassidy looked blurry but undeniable. Laughing, handing over the fob to the very car parked in the driveway right now. Cassidy dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the flagstones, the sound exploding like a gunshot in the quiet. Henry swiped the screen again. A grainy security clip appeared. Daphne, blonde highlights visible, signing papers in a dingy office. Exhibit B, September 1st. Quick cash title loans, Henry said. Here is Daphne signing a collateral agreement. Daphne gasped. Dad, stop. Henry ignored her. You didn't just steal the car Clara owned the title to. You forged her signature to take out a $20,000 predatory loan and spent it on a villa in Tulum and a wardrobe for Cassidy. The crowd collectively recoiled. This wasn't a family spat anymore. Henry set down the tablet. His voice was ice. This is grand larceny and identity theft. Felonies in New York. That's when I saw them. Police lights flashed through the gate. 2 officers approached the lawn, walking with purpose. Daphne's face went white. Dad, please, she whispered. Please don't do this. But Henry had already turned away. The officers reached Daphne. One of them pulled out handcuffs. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Daphne's survival instincts kicked in. Cornered animals always fight back. She reached into her purse and pulled out a document, thrusting it at the officers with shaking hands. I have power of attorney, she declared, her voice cracking. I have legal authority to manage Clara's finances. This is all a misunderstanding. Check the document. It's notarized. The officers paused. One of them took the paper, examining it carefully. On paper, it looked valid. Official stamp, signatures, the whole 9 yards. The mood shifted. The officer looked at me, then at Daphne, uncertainty creeping into his expression. Daphne saw the opening and went for the kill. She turned on me, her face contorted with rage and desperation. You're lying, she spat. You filed a false police report. You're trying to destroy your own mother because you're jealous of your sister. You've always been jealous. Even I faltered for a second. The document looked real. What if she'd somehow managed to get something legitimate? What if this whole thing backfired? Then Henry stepped forward. Check the date, he said calmly. The officer looked down at the document. February 14th. Valentine's Day. 2 years ago. Now check this, Henry said, producing another document from his jacket pocket. This is a notarized affidavit proving that document was forged. Daphne bribed a notary in a parking lot outside a strip mall in Queens. The notary came forward last week when I contacted him. He's cooperating with authorities in exchange for immunity. The officer's demeanor instantly pivoted back to arrest mode. Daphne's face crumpled. Why didn't you stop me? She whispered to Henry, tears streaming down her face now. Real ones, for once. If you knew, why didn't you stop me? Henry's answer was brutal in its simplicity. Forgery alone wasn't enough. I needed a felony to activate the no contest clause in my trust. I let you run up the charges, Daphne. You didn't just steal a car. You stole your own inheritance. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Daphne collapsed as the police cuffed her. They had to practically drag her to the squad car. She was screaming now, mascara running down her face, her carefully constructed image shattered on the flagstones along with Cassidy's champagne glass. Cassidy stood frozen, watching her mother being hauled away. Then she looked at me. For the first time in our lives, I saw fear in her eyes. She realized her free ride had just ended. Henry returned to the microphone. The crowd was still silent, everyone processing what they'd just witnessed. The bar is open, he said simply. Please, continue to enjoy yourselves. And just like that, the party resumed. The string quartet started playing again. People began whispering, then talking, then laughing nervously. Wealthy people are remarkably good at moving past scandal when there's free champagne involved. Later, after the police had left and most of the guests had filtered away, Henry found me standing by the infinity pool. He handed me the Range Rover keys. It's yours, he said. The loan is cleared. I paid it off this morning. I looked at the keys in my palm. They felt heavy. Not because of their weight, but because of what they represented. For years, I dreamed of a moment like this. Vindication. Justice. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't the problem. But now that I had it, I felt empty. I don't want it, I said. Henry raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. Sell it, I said. I want the cash. I'm starting my own firm. Crisis Management Consulting. I need capital, not a car that reminds me of all of this. Henry studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was a real smile. Not the polite, patriarch smile he gave at parties. This was genuine respect. Done, he said. I'll have the money transferred by Monday. We stood there in silence for a while, watching the sun set over the Atlantic. I'm sorry, he said finally. I should have seen it sooner. You saw it when it mattered, I said. I left the party that night, deleted my mother's and Cassidy's contacts from my phone, and watched the Hamptons disappear behind me through the Uber window. Not with sorrow, but with clarity. The ledger was closed. I wasn't just vindicated. I was free. 6 months later, my consulting firm was thriving. I specialized in crisis management for families in transition, estate disputes, business succession, conflict resolution. Turns out, growing up in a war zone makes you pretty good at navigating other people's battles. I never saw Daphne again. She took a plea deal. 18 months for fraud and identity theft. She served 9 with good behavior. Cassidy tried to reach out once, asking for money. I didn't respond. Henry and I have dinner once a month. We don't talk about Daphne or Cassidy. We talk about business, about life, about the future. He told me recently that he's redoing his will. Everything's going to charity when he's gone, except for one trust. The one with my name on it. I told him I didn't need it. He said I'd earned it. Maybe he's right. I spent 24 years being harvested. Maybe it's time to let myself be planted. The ledger taught me something important. It's not about keeping score. It's about knowing your worth. And I'm worth more than a stolen car. I'm worth the life I'm building on my own terms. Thanks for listening, and if this story resonates with you, don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about standing up, fighting back, and finding freedom on your own terms. Sometimes the best inheritance is the one you give yourself.